We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
On Dan Wootton tonight, it's Mark Dolan in for the big man with my first show of 2023. In my big opinion monologue, the NHS has reached the point of no return. It's enough to make you sick. In my take at 10, my New Year's resolutions for 2023. Plus top Tory MP Andrew Bridgen on why he wants to stop the vaccine rollout. Top US doctor Ken Berry on how to have a lean and healthy new year. And we'll have a spring clean with How Clean Is Your House legend Kim Woodburn. We're live from 9.
Well, hello there. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs & Co, the show where we'll get into the things that have got you talking. And guess what? It is a brand new year. How's that happened? 2023. Life flies by, doesn't it? So tonight, I got one thing on my mind and one thing only, ladies and gentlemen, and I want you to get involved. Let's face it, the UK has got quite a few problems right now, hasn't it? Whether it's a broken NHS, whether it's a migrant crisis, we've got the ongoing situation in Ukraine, cost of living, people can't get a house, and on and on and on we go. So, guess what we're going to do tonight? We're going to fix it. Yes, we are. I want your top 5 priorities. If you're Rishi Sunak right now, you wouldn't want to be him, quite frankly, but if you were him, what would you be focusing on? What do you want to see from this government this year going forward? Let's broaden it out as well. It doesn't have to just be about politics. What about us as a nation, as a people? What do you think we should be focusing on? What could we do to make the UK its best ever in 2023? If anyone from government's watching, listening, you can have our ideas for free. But first, before I get into all of that, Dominique Samuels will be keeping me company, as will Kevin Craig. But before all of that, let's bring ourselves up to speed with tonight's latest headlines.
I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. The first Channel migrants of the new year have arrived at Dover Harbour today. GB News can reveal that dozens of mainly young men were picked up from a small boat around 9 miles off the Kent coast. It's understood there were more than 40 people on board the inflatable boat. It comes as UK and French authorities start patrolling beaches together for the first time in a bid to stop migrants from making the treacherous crossing. 3 people have died at the scene of a fire that broke out at a hotel in Perth. Police Scotland's confirmed 11 people have been treated for minor injuries. Emergency services were called to the New County Hotel in County Place at around 5 this morning. Scottish Fire and Rescue says 9 fire engines and 60 firefighters were at the scene. Health bosses are calling for the government to declare a major incident within the NHS over mounting pressure on the service. The Society for Acute Medicines called the current situation urgent. The government says it recognises the pressure faced by the NHS. But the Royal College of Emergency Medicine claims as many as 500 people could be dying each week because of delays to critical care. Lisa King told GB News her husband would have survived if he'd been treated in time.
500 people a week dying in NHS hospitals because they were denied the treatment and appointments that they needed. What my husband died from was very treatable. He did not need to die. He should never have died. And for every one of those 500 a week that are dying, there is a family behind them. There is a husband, a wife, a partner, a son, a daughter.
Meanwhile, some people are resorting to DIY medicine when they can't see a GP face-to-face. A recent survey commissioned by the Lib Dems shows that more than 1 in 4 adults hasn't been able to get an in-person appointment in the past 12 months. 16% of those who can't see a doctor have resorted to home remedies or asking someone who isn't qualified to help them. The Department for Health and Social Care says it recognises the pressure GPs are under and is working to increase access for patients. Actor Jeremy Renner is being treated for serious injuries after a snow ploughing accident. A publicist for the 51-year-old says he's in a critical condition but considered stable. The details of the accident are unclear. The 2-time Oscar nominee is best known for his performances in The Hurt Locker, The Town and for playing Hawkeye in the Marvel movies. Thousands of mourners are gathering to pay their respects to Brazilian football legend Pelé, who's lying in state at the ground of his former club, Santos. Fans started gathering for the public wake last night at the Urbano Caldeira Stadium in Sao Paulo. The 3-time World Cup winner died on Thursday at the age of 82. He'd been undergoing treatment for colon cancer. Tomorrow there'll be a procession through the streets of Santos, followed by a private family burial. Prince Harry says he wants his father and brother back. In an interview to be televised just days before his memoirs released, ITV says the Duke of Sussex goes into unprecedented depth and detail about his life, both in and outside the royal family. A preview clip shows the prince saying it never needed to be this way. And former tennis star Martina Navratilova has been diagnosed with throat and breast cancer. The former world #1 previously underwent treatment for early-stage breast cancer back in 2010. The 66-year-old says the new diagnosis is a double whammy and serious, but still fixable. TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to Dewbs & Co.
Thanks for that. I've missed you guys, so I have. I'm glad to be back in this brand new year. Happy New Year to all of you. I hope you had a wonderful time, by the way, over the festive period. Did you have a good Christmas? Are you one of those Grinches, by the way, that absolutely hates Christmas and is sitting there saying, thank goodness it's over? I want your tales, your festive tales. You can get them to me in the usual way. I'm with you right through until 7 o'clock this evening. Alongside me, the writer and broadcaster Dominique Samuels this evening, and the former Labour parliamentary candidate and the CEO of PLMR, Kevin Craig. I'll say good evening to you. And I also say, by the way, Dominique Samuels is next to me. Keen-eyed viewers might have noticed she's not actually next to me. There's an empty chair next to me because she's just got a little bit held up in traffic. So she will be here any moment now. It's me and you there for now. We can cope
That'll
with that.
work. Happy New Year, Michelle.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too. And you know the drill, don't you, on Dewbs & Co? It's not just about, I normally say us three, it's not just about us two, soon to be three, for now. It's about you at home as well. So I want everything that's on your mind tonight. I want to hear about your Christmases as well. I do like hearing all of these festive stories. We've still got the tree up in the background as well.
But how was yours? That's what we want to know.
Oh, mine was wonderful. I went home with all my family, so it was all up north, and it was lovely. There was 19 of us this year.
Wow.
19.
You cooking?
I chipped in. My role at home is supervisor. Yeah, I know. I've got to be vague, Kevin, right? Because I know that my mum will be watching. So if I try and claim too much credit, if I sit here and I go, I handled the whole thing, my mum will be having absolutely none of it, and she'll be writing in, telling everyone that I'm lying. But yeah, I did a bit. I supervised. And we had one of those air fryer things in the family as well. So we tried one of those out.
I'm going to nod like I know what that is.
Well, I didn't know what it was, but one of the family members brought one along, and they're wonderful.
OK.
I won't go too much into it, or else I'll be accidentally... People will think they're watching QVC with me. Yeah, pitching up, touting the air fryers, but I think I might invest in one that was very handy and very cheap to run.
Excellent. Well, we need that, yes. Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Transport's not working, guests not here.
I know. Yeah. What can you do? You can't get the staff, can you? I'll tell you what we're doing tonight, by the way, everybody. We're going to do things slightly different tonight because it is the start of a brand new year. If you've looked around you at any point, I've got to say I tried to swerve the news as much as possible over the Christmas period, but I couldn't help but see some of it. There's a lot going wrong in this country at the moment, whether it's the what I would call now a crisis in the NHS. In fact, actually, there's crises everywhere. Some people would say there's crises in the housing market. You've seen the high streets today as well, haven't we? We've got the situation in Ukraine, you name it. But tonight we're going to be about solutions, so we are. So I'm asking you, if you were in charge of this country, you wouldn't want to be, but let's just imagine for a second you would be. What would you be saying to Rishi Sunak? What do you want to see as the top priorities for his government for this year? Top 5 I want, so you don't have to restrict them just to politics. You can just go a bit broader. We can make it about anything you want, quite frankly. But my question is, how do we make 2023 the best ever for this country? Is that even possible? So I want your top 5 solutions. You know how to get in touch with me by now, don't you? gbviews@gbnews.uk is my email. Or you can tweet me at GBNews if that's more your thing. Lots of you have already been getting in contact. You're a sensible bunch, I have to say. You're giving me your top 5 tips in your absolute drove. So let me read some of them out. I was saying, by the way, a couple of seconds ago, I was listening to GB News on Friday. I had a very long drive. And I decided to write into the presenter, and he didn't read my email out. And I spent the whole show poised, so I was thinking any second now.
Michelle.
And I was thinking any second now he's going to read it. I put it in capitals and everything to make it stand out, and I didn't get it read out. I was gutted. Ruined my end of my 2022. Maggie, she says, welcome back, Michelle. Point 1, people need to regain their sense of self-reliance and community. Point 2, government needs to stop these illegal migrants. 3, she says, we need to fix the NHS. 4, get policing right with zero tolerance for any violence or crime. That would be a fine thing, wouldn't it? And finally, she says, get back free speech and sort out all the wokeness. And then she reckons if you can crack those 5, the economy in time will fix itself. David, you say at the top of my list, Michelle, should be making work pay. We should tackle the parasite agencies, he says, tackle the low pay culture and the work from home pyjama classes, you say. Then you can look at reducing taxes. Taxes, not taxes that you pay, not the taxes that you get into. So I like your plan there, David. That's quite good. Nathan says we should focus on tidal power, run by a company formed by the government for the UK public. I've got to say, though, Nathan, you're quite optimistic there. Do you trust the government? You're saying basically if the government set this thing up, you think it operates smoothly. Really? Dominic Samuels, you've made it. Happy New Year. Welcome.
Happy New Year. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry. You should have heard what I was saying about you for running late off air, wasn't I? It wasn't very nice, everybody. Anyway, you're here now. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm going to start with you, Kevin. Give me your top 5 things, please.
Well, depending, are we going to keep this straight to politics or do you want it more broadly?
No, what we're going to do, my little plan for the show tonight, you can give me your top 5 and then throughout the course of the show, we'll delve into them. We'll delve into some of the viewers' 5, your 5, and we'll fix it.
Fine. Well, I think the answer to the question, the top 5, one is Ukraine. The second is I think it will be a more enjoyable year if we're all a bit more positive about what a fantastic country we live in.
Yeah.
The third is to fix all the public sector, NHS, transport underfunding issues. The fourth is to have a bit more tolerance in how we speak to each other, to listen more and condemn less, even if you disagree
We're
intensely.
not part of two?
Well, no. I think that's a bit more about being more positive about the country overall. And the fifth one is, I think we really do need, I think, an election, and that would be very helpful for the country.
An election, right. So to a recap, Dominic, his 5, Kevin's 5, Ukraine, positivity, NHS, tolerance, and an election. What's your 5 things?
An election is quite interesting, actually.
Well, we're going to get into all of those as the show rumbles on.
My number one thing would be to stop the disastrous, insane march towards net zero, especially in these economic circumstances. Don't think it makes sense. I think it's making things more expensive for people intentionally, and some of the hysteria around it needs to be addressed as well. Secondly, I think we should focus more on the people here at home instead of focusing on fitting in with sort of the global elite, you know, your COP 26, 27, 28 or whatever, stop sending all our money abroad and actually invest some of it here. Maybe then you wouldn't see public sector workers begging for better working conditions and better pay. Third, I think that we should push for diplomacy in Ukraine. I saw an article today saying that it will last beyond 2023, something I'd been saying since the beginning, but we can't afford for this to go on perpetually. We just can't. Fourth, am I on 3 or 4?
This is your number 4.
Fourth, what was it? What was
the first one? Net zero. You can tell it's you just.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
Break,
I know.
Net zero was your first one. Focus more domestically. Diplomacy in Ukraine.
Yeah, the fourth one was to sort out the current assault on our southern border. A lot of people don't know that this is also going on in America as well. Joe Biden's in a lot of hot water because of what's going in, people still flooding in from Mexico. And fifth, this will be a controversial one, but as many medical experts are coming out and saying now, including Dr. Seema Hotra, who's regularly on here, I do think the COVID-19 vaccines should be paused and investigated. The least we should do is stop them being pushed onto younger and younger age groups, which is what is currently happening.
Whoa, that'll be controversial because I happen to know that to my right, you was on the vaccination, I don't know what you call it, group, committee, volunteer thing. So we're going to get into that one as well. I'll tell you my 5. And I got a bit greedy and I came up with 6. So I'll have to I'll stream down my list. So these are in no particular order. The migrant crossing. I think you've got to try and get a handle on that. 46,000 people. And by the way, that's just the ones we know of, by the way. So if you ask me, I think it'll be much higher than that anyway. So you've got to get to grips with that. Number 2, I think this country needs an industrial strategy. And I'll be interested in your thoughts as well on that,
Labour
Kevin.
policy. Well done, Michelle.
Well, look at me, I'm dressed as Labour
This
today.
is it. Sign of things to come.
If you're listening, not watching, I've come dressed as the Labour Party accidentally tonight. But come up with an industrial strategy for this country. Where do we think the future of business, etc., should be? NHS, I personally think that we should declare a crisis now in the NHS, particularly emergency care. So I've got some ideas around that. And then one that might make some of you roll your eyes. I think this whole kind of gender agenda is something that we need to focus on and get to grips with. I saw what's happened in Scotland whilst I've been off. I was keeping a keen eye on that. And just talking to some of the kids in my family over Christmas, it absolutely shocks me to the core how many kids are at school and they know their classmates are saying that they're now a boy and was a girl and this and that and the other. And I personally get very worried about where that is going to lead to. So I know some of you will be at home saying, oh, Michelle, it's a very small percentage of people. But actually, I think this has got the potential to cause quite some harm, actually, for a lot of kids going forward if it's not got to grips with. So that's my 5. You've heard Dominique's. You've heard Kevin's. Let me just bring some of the viewers in. I like it. You, Michelle, if I was in charge of the country, says Jeanette, I would do one thing only. I would take all of the foreign aid budget, she says, to solve all of our problems here. Interesting. That's only one. Someone else says, Michelle, if you need 5 priorities, that means that you've got too many. You won't get anything done. He says you should only have one priority, and that should be immigration. Point 1. Annette, you say stop the state dependency culture. Cut the benefits, increase the minimum wage and give preference to 2-parent families for social housing. You say you want to promote a single British culture rather than a multicultural society. I'm interested in what you mean by that. Radical reform of the NHS, says Annette. I like this one. Reintroduce discipline in schools, intellectual elitism in universities, and apprenticeships in policing and nursing. And then you say zero policy policing. I don't know, what does that mean?
Zero policy
policy policing. I don't know what that means, Annette. Do you know what that means?
I don't understand it. I would like to know more.
Yeah, I would like to know more as well.
Zero tolerance, maybe she means.
I don't know. You're going to tell me what you mean, aren't you, Annette?
I think Dominiqu's right, actually. I think that's what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick says, cool, blimey, Nick. You don't sound a happy chappy. You say there's no point at all listing 5 things to get the country back on its feet. You say it's finished. It's dead in the water. And in capitals, Nick, you say there is no hope. Really? Is that what you think?
That's so sad.
I think that's
I mean, I can't really blame him, but...
Well, I think it's sad if we're starting the year.
Yes.
If we're starting the year, because where do you go from there, Nick, if that's how we're going to start? Doug says, here's my 5 things. 1, complete Brexit. 2, cease funding illegal immigrant claims for legal aid. 3, you want to push ahead with the Rwandan policy. 4, you want to sack the Home Secretary. And number 5, says Doug, absolutely refuse to give in to the unions. Interesting thoughts there. I'm going to be calibrating some of our thinking, pull together some more of your thoughts at home. So I want your 5 suggestions. Keep them clean. I've seen some of the responses I got on Twitter after this. Some of them made my eyes water. They were not clean at all. But yeah, keep them clean and I'll get as many read out as I can. I want your 5 plans, your 5 policies, how we're going to sort this country out. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to be picking a few of them and we're going to get into them in some detail because headlines are good, aren't they? But we need a little bit of substance too. Don't go anywhere and I'll see you in 2.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, welcome back to Dewbs & Co. with me, Michelle Dewberry. Happy New Year to you all. I'm keeping you company until 7 o'clock tonight, and alongside me we've got the writer and the broadcaster, Dominique Samuels, and the former Labour Party parliamentary candidate and the
Call it what you want. It's the new year.
Top business gurus, the CEO of PLMR, that's what we like to call you, Kevin Craig. Welcome back, everybody. We're fixing the UK tonight, so we are, over the next, what we've got left now, about 40 minutes or so. 2023, what should the priorities be in this country? How are we going to sort out some of the messes that's going on? AC Stacey says we're going to reorganise the NHS, union reform, free speech, reduce the welfare state, make work priority number one, and take responsibility for your lives and stop being reliant on the government. Oh, there you go. Let's have a look at some of your feedback on the screen, shall we? Privatise the NHS. Nationalise the rail, stop migration, stop welfare for those that are able to work, and cut corporation tax, says Jenny. Brian says abolish the Northern Ireland Protocol, restore Northern Ireland's place in the UK, abolish all former EU legislation, kick foreign trawlers out of UK 12-mile waters, says Brian. I hazard a guess there that you are a Brexiteer, Brian. And Nikki says, reform the NHS, put Michelle in charge. She says she trusts me, cool, blimey. Number 2, sort out the migrant crisis. 3, reform the tax code. 4, encourage people to have children, she says, and head off that crisis for the future. 5, sort out housing. Interesting stuff there. I'll tell you what, guys, a theme that's come through thick and fast tonight is NHS. I would go as far now as saying it's in crisis. The Lib Dems, I've got to say, I agree with them. They're saying Parliament should be recalled. We should basically declare a crisis and have an emergency plan. Kevin Craig, this is literally topping the list of a lot of people's top 5s. What do you make of it?
Well, no wonder. I mean, I wanted to try and be positive about the year ahead, but the fact is the NHS is in a bad way. I mean, it still does amazing things, but it is suffering from... You know, it does go back to money. And I know people say, oh, stop throwing money at the NHS. There needs to be reform, and people like Wes Streeting talk about that. But the success of the NHS over time is directly linked to money put into it. Spending on it over time is down, waiting lists are up. Yes, we've had the pandemic and all that sort of stuff, but I believe on data and people's experiences, and you look today what's come out from the Royal College of Emergency Medicine, I think the NHS under this current administration is in crisis, and that they have to bear the blame for some of that.
But your answer is just more money. More money to do what with?
Not just more money, money and reform, and GDP, a percentage of our national spending on the NHS has over time not gone up in the way that it did under previous governments. And also, the government doesn't use targets as well as Labour did. And as a result of that, you don't get the results. I know that it's not straightforward. I'm not saying it is for any government, but ultimately, you look at the way that this administration has misspent money, I think it could be done so much better.
So money is a key aspect of Kevin's thoughts. Dominic, where do you stand on the whole NHS thing?
Well, really, when it comes to the argument of money, we do commit more and more and more money to the NHS, and it does seem to be needing more each and every single time. It's like a gaping black hole, and I think that is because of the nature of what the NHS is. It's a public service, and when you've got a rising population that's growing in size, but also growing in terms of age as well, and the different sorts of things that are needed to be prioritised, for example, social care for older people that are living longer, it does need to adapt, and I don't think it has. I don't necessarily think it's just an issue of how much money the NHS is getting. I think it's also an issue of where it's actually going. So, for example, and people might laugh at this and think this is really trivial, but, you know, spending tens of thousands of pounds on salaries for diversity managers, for example, doesn't say to me that people that are working within the NHS that are on extremely high salaries are actually prioritising that money and managing it as well as they could be managing it. I think that we prioritise the wrong things, and as a result, we have people working with the NHS that just don't want to be there, and as a result, the quality of it has gone completely down. I think there needs to be maybe perhaps more of a financial incentive in terms of the short term, for example, offering private insurance for people that can actually afford to pay for their own healthcare, specifically the wealthiest. I think that might go a long way.
Yeah, but the challenge is, because a lot of people already do have private healthcare, but anyone that's got a private healthcare policy will know that emergency care is more often than not excluded. So if you have a car accident or whatever, you need your ambulances, you go to A&E, that doesn't get covered. And my worry is that one of the problems that we've got in the NHS at the moment is that kind of that front-facing A&E.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons, Kevin, and everyone kind of just glosses over it. Everyone will go, oh, yeah, we had the pandemic and, da-da-da-da. Well, actually, no. We took the NHS, the National Health Service, we reduced it into the National COVID-only service. And I think it was that, which, by the way, was done apparently to protect the NHS, that didn't protect the NHS. That's pushed the NHS to within an inch of its life. People didn't go get help. You can't get into a GP for love nor money. So people use A&E now like some glorified doctor's surgery.
Okay.
And that was responsible.
OK, well, the ambition to strike a chord of harmony and unity, I'm afraid, is not going to last very long into this year, because both of you are attributing...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so we did our
forgot
best.
about that positivity.
We did our best,
and,
we did our best, right? But I know that Dominique, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, by the way, forgive me, New Year, brain fuzz, and yourself, Michelle, you're attributing, you're not agreeing with my point that it's about money. Well, I hate to introduce data and facts into NHS debates, OK? Over time, OK, spending on the NHS has not, under this government, gone up in the way that it did under Labour. And money, spending under Labour, rose in real terms. It's all boring data. It's not happened since. And COVID-19, OK, there was a pandemic. People were dying. We didn't have vaccines, which is why the situation is much different now. And at the time, we had a national emergency. Us three, one here, two over there, have such vastly different views on how this should have been handled. We could talk about that alone all night. I think we were late into declaring lockdowns. I think we've come through in the end. I think our NHS workers did an amazing job. I don't minimise the reactions that some people have had to vaccines, but it was necessary. It was necessary to ultimately save lives.
I mean, looking at what's actually happening in other countries, though, I don't think that makes sense at all in regards to lockdowns.
Well, the thing,
even looking at China, for example, you know, their population is, what is it, like 89% vaccinated? They had the masks, they had the lockdowns, and look what's happening there. The idea...
China's 89% vaccinated. You serious?
Yeah, if you look at
the population of China.
Yeah, if you look online and look at the culture of China in itself, run by the CCP, there is no way that people there wouldn't accept a vaccine.
China is an absolute, it's a basket case when it comes to COVID. So we could do a whole episode.
No,
on that.
I don't think that's a valid criticism of it, because we use China as a blueprint for implementing lockdowns here.
No one here is using.
So don't poo-poo China when we copied them.
China. No one's talking about China. You constantly. I've looked at your Twitter feed. You've been banging on, for such a long time that you think lockdowns were a total disaster.
Well, I don't think I know, because when you actually look at case studies of other countries,
you're not a medical expert. What do you know?
The idea that you don't know. The idea that I need to be a doctor or an expert to look at what's actually happened, which is that lockdowns have had no impact on saving people's lives. In fact, Chris Whitty has even admitted now that more people are dying than they were at the height of the pandemic because of the after effects of lockdowns. That is factually why more people are dying in the NHS right now, because lockdowns didn't work. They don't work.
Well,
and the idea... you can't think they did when Sweden, who didn't implement lockdowns, have the lowest excess death tally, one of the lowest excess death tallies in the world. Well, I can look at the evidence. I can look at the evidence.
Lockdowns did work.
I can look at the evidence.
All the medical experts, and I'm just tired. It's New Year. I'm not going to listen anymore to people who deny that COVID-19 didn't exist and that
Where
the
did I
NHS
say
wasn't on the
COVID-19
We hear it all the time.
exist?
We hear it all the time.
That's a leap that you've made.
I hear it,
That's
every
a
time I hear
leap
it
that
now,
you've
I'm going to speak
made.
out against it.
Well, I didn't say that, though, mate.
And I've vaccinated people, right? I trained
Good
up
for
as a
you.
volunteer.
And good for you. I've spoken to people that have had to have their legs amputated because of people like you pushing a vaccine.
But you mean people like me? You're talking about
people
doctors
like
and nurses.
pushing lockdowns, pushing vaccines
when
they don't work, and they've ruined people's lives.
They save
They've ruined people's lives.
They
empirical evidence that they have, I'm afraid. But there's empirical evidence that they've maimed people and led to people being killing themselves because of being ignored by people like you.
This is crazy, people like you.
It's not. It's not.
This is almost a conspiracy theory you're
it's
pumping out.
It's not a conspiracy theory.
I worked in the NHS
No, I'm sorry. How can people that have been to the doctors and had their been medically recognised
New Year, I'm not listening to it.
as being made disabled by the vaccines through misinformation?
New Year.
That is disgusting, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're a disgrace.
No, your views
You are a disgrace.
Your views are a disgrace.
I've spoken to people who've had their lives ruined by people like you. You should be ashamed.
Really?
Yeah, you should
Say
be
that
ashamed.
to every doctor and nurse. Is
Say
that who you're
to every
talking
single
to?
person who's been injured by these COVID-19 vaccines. Speak to Dr. Seema Hofstra. I'm sorry, that is disgusting.
You're
It's vile.
on the record, you're a disgrace
You're
for
vile.
volunteering and
You are
helping
vile.
to vaccinate and save
You are
lives.
vile.
Disgrace.
Stop it. Right, everybody. I've missed this, haven't you? I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to get these two some boxing gloves or a brandy, one of the two, I don't know
The latter,
which.
please.
In the meantime, give me your top fives. Let's not make it about China. Let's agree to disagree on the old lockdown, although good luck trying to get me to lock down again. That's all I'll say on that one. Quick break. When I come back, let's go back up to the agenda. Top 5 points. How are we going to fix the UK? Let's remember, by the way, top 2. I think it was number 2 of Kevin's tolerance, positivity. We're going to come back on that vein. I'll see you in 2.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dewbs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Hello there, welcome back to Dewbs & Co. with me, Michelle Dewberry, keeping you company until 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, the writer and broadcaster Dominique Samuels, alongside her, the former Labour parliamentary candidate and the CEO of PLMR, Kevin Craig. You two having a little set to there before the break on lockdowns. I think it's safe to say that these two don't necessarily agree. Lots of you guys getting in touch about your priorities. I have to say, your 5 priorities, Paul says, frack, 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 frack and frack. I think you're a fan of fracking there, Paul. You're not subtle in that one there. Jane, invest in our own country, Michelle. Lower the retirement age back to 60. Get out of work people to apply and go and get a job. NHS, says Jim. Secure the Channel border. Focus on inflation and growth and get Glasgow Rangers to buy decent players. I can't comment on that one, I've got to say. I'll take your word for it, though. Mark says, remove the unelected Prime Minister, stop funding Ukraine, stop the migrants, turn them around and send them back. And he says, stop HS2. Well, Mark, you've picked up on a topic that has come up time and time again in my inbox tonight, which is the whole topic about Ukraine. That is on a lot of people's top fives in terms of things we need to get a grip of on 2023. I'll open it up to the panel. I'm going to give you a warning though, you pair, because I think you might disagree. So we do it nicely on this show. We do it respectfully. I'll let you talk over each other a minute ago, but we need to make it easy for everyone to hear. So we'll have none of that in this second part. You two, Ukraine, Dominique, where do you stand?
Just on what you said there, I've had so many messages. One of them saying, my mum had a stroke after having the AstraZeneca vaccine, second dose. She lost control of her walking and bowels, and now she's dead. I'm lost without her and permanently in depression. Those are the kinds of people I speak on behalf of that are chronically ignored by the government. So before you band around terms like conspiracy theorist, I think you should remember people like that who are currently grieving.
Yeah, I
on
do.
The topic...
And I also, well, I'm going to have an answer to that, right to reply, if you don't mind, was you should remember when you say to people like you, Kevin, OK, who gave people vaccines, OK, I was proud to be part of the St John's Ambulance volunteer force who joined up with the NHS staff in this pandemic. I was proud to play a part in saving lives. I said before I started speaking earlier that in no way did I mitigate in everything that I said afterwards, those who suffered reactions to vaccines. You didn't listen to that, OK? But what you did say was people like you, in speech marks, which means every nurse and every doctor and every volunteer.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
You've both had your say.
That's what you said.
And I do have to say, one of the things that I'm proud of for GB News is that we do give a voice, actually, to people that have had serious harms as a result of the vaccine, not suggesting that everyone that's had it does.
I mean, that's not
that's
the
very proud of
case.
the efforts that we've done on this channel to give those people a voice. Right, Ukraine, Dominique.
Anyway, on the topic of Ukraine, I have been critical of it, mostly because the conversation around Ukraine is completely one-sided. All of a sudden, you know, we're not allowed to talk about the history of Ukraine as a country, which may help us properly inform going forward what we do. I think our strategy of just throwing endless money at this regime, poo-pooing, that's the word I'm using today for some reason, diplomacy, and calling anyone who actually asked for some sort of diplomacy and an end to this madness a Putin apologist. I think that is a recipe for disaster. I even saw an article in the Telegraph today saying that the UK shouldn't be tempted to negotiate with Putin. Only in modern Britain would asking for negotiation during a war be controversial. And I wonder if those same people would have that opinion if it were British people having missiles rain down on them in this country. And I think the answer would be no.
Kevin Craig?
I just want to check, Dominic.
Don't go back to lockdowns.
No, I'm not.
Right,
you do think what Russia did was wrong, right? Do you think that?
So you sort of alluded to what I already said there, this sort of insinuation that you have to be a Putin apologist to not agree with how this war is currently being handled. Of course, I think that invading a country is bad, but the idea that Putin just woke up one day and decided he wanted to create the Soviet Union 2.0 is just simply factually incorrect and historically inaccurate.
Right. We'll come back. I'm not totally sure. I'm not totally sure. I think you're almost justifying what he's done there.
No, I'm not justifying
I'm hearing
it.
justification.
To say that it's the narrative is that he he woke up one day and decided to put loads of soldiers at Ukraine's border and invade it because he wants the Soviet Union to be recreated, and not that NATO and Ukraine have been closer together, and not that America's been influencing Ukraine over the years, which is what Russia's had a problem with. That's just simply not correct, in my view.
So, yet again, I think there's not almost a single word you say that I can agree with. I think Russia invaded a sovereign country. The narrative on Ukraine is the one articulated and by its president, its democratically elected president. Now, for those not watching, did you just cough there indicating disagreement that President Zelensky is democratically elected?
It's been long speculated before this war happened, before Zelensky turned into the second coming of Christ, that he does have some very dodgy financial links.
Okay.
And that also linked to his presidential campaign.
So he wasn't democratically elected?
I'm not saying he wasn't, but I'm saying I'm not saying he wasn't. But I'm just saying this idea that Zelensky should be listened to just because. I think
just because he's
So what's going to do about it, Kevin?
Well, what we're going to do is, and again, another point that was made just then, Michelle. Nobody is saying no to diplomacy. OK, no one is. There have been constant efforts. You look at our ally and friend, the French president, who's been constantly making efforts to talk to Russia. So it's a combination of maximising military aid to Ukraine and seeking, if possible, any possible way out. This country, Britain, has always seen negotiation as a way to end conflicts. You look at what's happened in Africa, you look at Northern Ireland, it's not a stupid country. We know that negotiation is needed. But there seem to be some people around, not a million miles away from me this evening, who do have quite a pro-Russia stance in this. And I disagree with that.
So what is it that I said that's the pro-Russian
You
stance?
infer that the president of Ukraine is not democratically elected. You inferred that one of the reasons that Ukraine was invaded by Russia is because NATO and Ukraine, in speech marks, got too close.
Well, that is actually true. That there was a promise made after the Cold War that NATO wouldn't expand eastward, and that promise has been broken. Just simply is. The idea that Ukraine should join NATO, that was something that the US promised Russia after the fall of the Soviet Union wouldn't happen. Then the US flagrantly was suggesting that that would happen. I think it was in 2021, Joe Biden met with Putin to try and get those assurances. He wasn't given them. This whole idea that Ukraine should also join the EU. Russia has said time and time again that it views that as a threat to its national security.
Nonsense,
so you can, you can agree with it or disagree with it. But the idea, that this has just come out of nowhere and Putin wants to create the Soviet Union, it's just factually incorrect. And the idea that we've actually tried to pursue diplomacy, I think, is also for the birds. When Zelensky himself has said is the only way he'll negotiate is if Russia cedes all of its territory, including Crimea, which it acquired, yes, illegally in our eyes since 2014. It has to do that in order for them to have some sort of negotiation or settlement. That's not going to happen, which says to me that you're not looking for an actual diplomatic solution.
Final word to you.
Well, I think that my fellow guest stance this evening is just incredibly, when it comes to the invasion in Ukraine, the killing of innocent civilians is remarkably...
We're as much to blame for that as Russia is.
You're talking over me. No, we're not. It is remarkably pro-Russian, and I think it goes against what the democratically elected president of Ukraine, supported by, I think, most people in this country. We've taken in well over 100,000 refugees. I find your stance impossible.
Well, yeah, I mean...
And you know what? That's absolutely fine. We don't all have to agree. We can respectfully disagree. I want to know your thoughts at home. I can see my inbox. And to say that you're divided on this is an understatement. I want to know your views on it. I asked you about your top 5 things to try and fix things going forward, to help the UK prosper, be better this year. What is on your mind tonight? What are your top 5? What are you hearing tonight that you agree with? What are you hearing that you disagree with? Phil says, Michelle, every time you wear red on your shirt, your panel always fall out. I've noted that. Next time I'm going to come in dressed in black. I'll do that tomorrow instead, I think. Give me your thoughts, GBViews, at gbnews.uk is my email address. You can tweet me at Michelle Dewbs or at GBNews. Don't go anywhere. I'll have some of your thoughts in just a couple of minutes.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today.
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Camilla Tominey. Join me on GB News on Sunday mornings for a politics show with personality on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, right through till 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, the writer and broadcaster Dominique Samuels and the former Labour parliamentary candidate and CEO of PLMR, Kevin Craig. Welcome back, you guys. I've been asking you for your top 5 things that you want to see happen in this country. Jane says, Michelle, 1, get Brexit done to include Northern Ireland and fishing. 2, change the law to deal with the migrant crisis. 3, stop net zero agenda, get fracking and mining. And 4, start clamping down on all the work agendas in all the areas. And number 5, use the foreign aid budget in this country and then only for real emergency aid abroad where needed. An email that I've got to say I found quite interesting was just coming from Klaus. And I think you make a really important and interesting point. If you've just tuned in, you might not know what I'm referring to, but to say there's been spicy disagreement between the two panellists is a little bit of an understatement. And Klaus has emailed in and said, Michelle, what's going on with your two panellists tonight represents what's going on right up and down the country. You say that this country is torn and divided, and in Klaus's words, will never, ever agree. Which leads me to some of the points on your 5. We were talking about tolerance, positivity. You said about general election. Do you think, because this is a divided country and people have lost tolerance and respect or whatever for other people's opinions, do you think it's gone too far? Can we pull back from that? How do we unite again?
If you'd have asked me that
10 minutes ago.
50 minutes ago, I might have had a different answer. I mean, I think that sometimes I get worried that the extremes of opinion that exist are just so, you know, my personal view is just so demoralising. I think the effort that we have to make is to remember there is a lot to be really positive about in this country, and it's going to require, including my good self, just constant effort, I think.
I think what's demoralising is when people that, you know, reiterate and repeat the mainstream establishment narrative render those that disagree with them as misinformation. And that's actually what's creating the extremes. You probably don't realise it, but when you've got the likes of Twitter and the likes of Facebook censoring information on behalf of the White House to do with COVID, to do with vaccines, to do with lockdown, and also to do with Ukraine, you do create people that are extreme and are on the defence. And I would agree, I think this conversation is a reflection of that. And I think probably the issue is, maybe me included, but less so than you, there are echo chambers that exist. So when you're confronted with opinions like mine, your head just seems to explode because you're probably surrounded by people that agree with you on the BBC, on Sky, the newspapers that you read, and you forget that there are a sizable amount of people out there that actually do think like me.
Yeah, but respectfully, I think you're both as bad as each other.
Yeah.
You're saying it's him, and I actually think I can see both sides of the opinions, and I would say that there was mutual kind of intolerance of the other people's opinions, which is why I found what Klaus is saying is quite interesting, because this country has been divided for a very long time. Some might say it started, or it certainly accelerated on things like Brexit, and that whole kind of divisive opinion where people were simply not able or willing to tolerate the alternate view.
But if you look statistically,
okay, well, it's my turn.
If you look statistically, it comes from one side.
Remainers,
okay.
You went before. So you've, I think your interests are served, Dominique, by fueling controversy and fueling this theory, and I let you finish, that people like me in speech marks, who you don't know, echo chambers, BBC or whatever, to the contrary, OK? My life is full of Conservatives, Brexit voters. It's much bigger than that. But I will not apologise when confronted on shows like this with opinions that I think have to be called out. You think that the liberal left, the cappuccino-sipping Islington mafia, whoever that is... I'm painting a picture, right, of all you just said a minute ago about
an
the BBC.
inaccurate one.
And the other day you did a tweet, that, you know, about the Guardian and net zero, right? Your whole worldview, you want to fuel this conspiracy theory. I think it probably gives you clicks.
It's not right.
It probably
I'm
gives you
going to have
clicks.
to interrupt you
Hang
there
on,
when
no,
you start using terms like conspiracy theory.
So I think this country is not as broken or as badly divided as some might say, but I think there is a duty, if one is in a place like this and you hear things that you know that have to be disagreed with or challenged, then that's OK. But the country is in better shape sometimes than I think we want to...
So, Dominic,
but this is the thing. Even using the term conspiracy theory really does expose the sort of place that you're coming from, because many things have been called conspiracy theories that then actually end up to be true or more likely to be the truth. For example, the Wuhan lab leak theory, which was censored by social media platforms at the start of COVID, labelled a conspiracy theory. The Hunter Biden laptop situation that would have actually, maybe, according to some people, cost Joe Biden...
Though, has it?
Yeah, but it was slapped down as a conspiracy theory straight away, and then after the fact numerous medical experts and scientists and also evidence has come out to suggest that that might be the case. More solidly, the fact that the Joe Biden's White House were actually trying to get social media platforms to censor information that didn't sort of reflect their worldview by banning certain people during COVID. Those are all facts. They're not conspiracy theories.
They're not facts. They're not facts.
Look at the Twitter files. There are things that you clearly haven't seen.
A lot of what you say,
and this is what's annoying. You're saying things that are facts, like they're facts when they're not facts. And the idea that I'm just doing this for controversy. If you look at some statistics and some polling that's been done, it's Remainers that are more likely to have an intolerant view of Brexiteers, and it's actually the vaccinated that are more likely to have an intolerant view of the unvaccinated than the other way around. There is a direction this is coming from, and it's yours,
I'm afraid.
Let
me ask you this at home, because one of the things that I do find quite interesting, I've done this show a year plus now, so I see lots of different opinions coming in on the mailbox every day, and I do find it quite interesting because I think people get called names. We've lost our ability to say, I disagree with you, I disagree with you. Instead, what we will do is people will say, like, you're a racist because you're a Brexiteer, or you're a conspiracy theorist because you agree with this, or you're stupid because of that. And to me, that is one of the issues in society that we need to... I don't know how we do it, by the way. I'm not going to fix this in the last 6 minutes of this programme. But I want your thoughts at home. Do you think it's gone a little bit too far? Do you think that we can try and kind of pull it back a little bit? I'm not sure, you know. Looking at this inbox, the inbox is as divided as what you two are. Andy, though, he's loving it. He says, please, can we have these two on every single day? I don't think my blood pressure can cope with that.
Mine won't take it. I don't know about Dominic.
Yeah,
I need to lie down.
I don't think that mine can cope it. Keith says, Michelle, can you give an example of how this country is not broken and is in good shape, please? Cool, blimey, Kevin, lad. You've given me Keith, sorry, you've given me a challenge at the end of the show. Well, do you know what I'd say to that? Spirit, our spirit. I think that 2022 was incredibly difficult for a lot of people. I think that 2023 has an awful lot of challenges. But I always use this analogy, E plus R equals Do you know what that stands for? E plus R equals It can never be the events that go on around you that give you your outcome. It can only ever be your reaction to those events.
Yeah, that's true.
And you're in control. We're all in control of our reactions. That's what I would say to that.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's depending on your thought process. I can't remember the chap at the start of the show who emailed in and told me that he thinks the whole thing is terrible. Do you feel any better after tonight's ding dong? Have you come on to Dewbs & Co and you're looking at that and you're thinking, no? Let me ask you this as well before I leave you. There was a poll out.
Looking ahead to this evening's weather, and the UK is looking mostly dry and settled, but with a few showers in the far northwest. Here are the details. It will be a fine start to the evening across the southwest of England. The wind will be light and skies will be mostly clear, allowing temperatures to dip fairly quickly. The southeast of England will experience similar conditions with generally dry weather, no more than a gentle breeze and plenty of clear periods. The odd patch of cloud is possible near to the south coast of Wales, but it will be a dry early evening elsewhere with clear periods. A ridge of high pressure will be toppling across the Midlands from the west, helping to give light winds and a quiet early evening. It will be turning chilly though under the long cloud breaks. Chilly too for the northeast of England, where skies will generally be clear, a bit more breeze is likely than further south, but temperatures will still begin to fall away. One or two areas of low cloud will drift across southern Scotland from the west, but it will stay dry with some clear spells. Northern and western Scotland might catch a shower. The breeze will gradually start to pick up across Northern Ireland heading into the evening, although at this point it will be dry and there will be some clear breaks. It will turn frosty this evening, especially in the east. However, wet and windy conditions will reach many areas from the west later. And that is how the weather is shaping up overnight into tomorrow morning.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dewbs & Co. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dewbs & Co.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB+ radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, first show of the year. Excess deaths are running at 1,000 a week. What is it? Is it the failures at A&E? Is it the vaccine? What's going on? We'll have a look at the numbers tonight. 9 out of 10 civil servants working for the Welsh Office are still working from home. What does that mean for the taxpayer? And joining me on Talking Pints, Alex Reid. He's been an actor, he's been a martial arts fighter, he was married to Katie Price, he won Celebrity Big Brother. There's an awful lot to talk about. But before all of that, let's get the news with Rhiannon James.
Thank you, Nigel. Your top stories from the GB newsroom. The first Channel migrants of the new year arrived at Dover Harbour today. GB News can reveal that dozens of mainly young men were picked up from a small boat around 9 miles off the Kent coast. It's understood there were more than 40 people on board. It comes as UK and French authorities start patrolling beaches together for the very first time in a bid to stop migrants from making the crossing. 3 people have died after a fire broke out at a hotel in Perth. Police Scotland's confirmed 11 others were treated for minor injuries.